And before we begin, I would like to say it is an honor for me and my wife, Heidi, to be here this weekend. And I'm amazed at your enthusiasm and your hard work in connection with this very emotional week that you've had last night with the memorial service and the talk by Brother Wallace. Your support now, again, Saturday. You could be doing many things this Saturday afternoon. And it just bespeaks your spirituality and appreciation for spiritual things. And I say that in a very honest and sincere and genuine manner. Jesus at Luke chapter 17 spoke about eagles, that when they see the carcass, their insight and farsightedness just beckons them to attack the carcass because they see food. He related that to people that really have their eye on spiritual food. And that's you. Where's the carcass today? Well, it's over here in the Bernardo Heights. And you gather together and now look for more on a Saturday afternoon, young people included. Your willingness to be here on your own effort instead of doing something else on a Saturday afternoon just simply is deeply appreciated. I work along with the schools at Patterson, New York, and my wife works along with the translation services. And as Brother McCullough mentioned, I will give the talk, but she will edit it later, so she does have a shred. And we think about Gilead School, and that's what we're going to talk about, how we develop material and study at Gilead. But it goes back, it's a rich history with Gilead School, back to 1943, when Brother Noumair delivered that famous talk, Peace Can at Last. He talked about Revelation 17:8, and he said that right in the middle of World War II, no, Armageddon's not coming, there's going to be a period of peace. And the next thing you know, a school for missionaries was developed back in 1943. World War II hadn't even ended yet, and yet he had confidence, the governing body, the faithful slaves back then, that no, there's going to be a period of peace, but it won't last. Thus, for over 60 years, this school training missionaries to go out into the field. And presently, we have the 128th class, and it's when you think about the couples that come to Gilead School, you have some Gilead graduates right in their audience. And what a wonderful thing it is to see young ones that make a decision to go out into the foreign service and to turn their back on the ways of the West and the faith that they have. And it's really something to think about when you consider the faith they have in God's Word and His organization. So here you have the 128th class with these students, couples from all over the world that come for training that will go out to the far ends of the earth. But the point is that we're all taught by Jehovah. So what's the aim of Gilead School, and how can we become a Gilead graduate without going to the school? You might be saying, well, I can't go to school. I'm too old, or I have a family, or I don't qualify. But again, we are all taught by Jehovah. So obviously, Jehovah is not going to just choose a select few and give them a certain education and ignore others. No, no, no. We too can go to that same school. Let's find out how. Let's open our Bibles first to 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 13. 2 Timothy 1:13 outlines the aim of the school, and it should be our aim as we study the Bible, God's Word. So let's go to 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 13. Keep holding the pattern of helpful words. That's what Paul told us there, the last letter that Paul would write. Death was imminent. But hold the pattern of helpful words that you heard from me, and then with faith and love that are in connection with Christ Jesus. That expression, pattern of helpful words, has a lot of meaning. A pattern of helpful words. In other words, the framework of the truth. The inner harmony of the truth. That's what Gilead School helps students to hold to. And when we see the pattern of truth, how the 66 books of the Bible all blend together and harmonize in a way that unmistakably shows Jehovah as the author, then the goal is to have someone say, I will never turn my back on God's Word. I will never turn my back on Jehovah's organization. Why? Because that pattern has been woven very tight right within their mind and heart. So, illustrated, you have this open tennis shoe. When you're ready to play a sport, you get your foot in there, that sneaker or that tennis shoe, and the laces are wide. But the shoe is somewhat slippery. Your foot can still come out. But each day at school, what happens? What would we do with those laces? Tighten them up. Little by little. Tighten, 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 tighten. And then at the end, knot it up, tie it tight, and that sneaker will never come off. You can't throw it off. And that's the goal that we have when we study, to continue to allow the inner harmony to tighten, 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 tie it up at the end. Our relationship with Jehovah, it never comes loose. So that's what we would like to focus on, this inner pattern, and see how it all works to our benefit. Oftentimes individuals ask, what do the students like the most about the school? And there's many things they enjoy, but one thing that is unique to them oftentimes is what are called prophetic patterns. And they go over hundreds of these, dozens and dozens of prophetic patterns. And that gives them the inner harmony. Now, Paul said that's important because the things on the earth represent the things in the heaven. And they go over all of these patterns that make things tight. I'll give you an example, and now it's your opportunity to participate. Because you're the Gilead class right now, the extension school, extension class 128. Are you ready, class? Come on now, you got to do well. You just can't be, you see, when we learn, we have to also participate. You won't get a written exercise, but you still must participate. Okay, so let's just take, as an example, Genesis 24. You don't need to open your Bibles here. We're going to open to another chapter just in a moment. But you have the marriage of Abraham, the marriage of Isaac. Correct? Abraham, Isaac, and you have his servant Eliezer, and you have the distant land Mesopotamia, you have Rebekah, you have this marriage. And all of that, what's that a foregleam of? The marriage of Isaac. Anyone? The marriage of Isaac. All right, let's start this way then. Who would Abraham come to picture? Okay, that's better. Yes, our dear sister right here with the Abraham.
Our Father Jehovah.
Jehovah God. And Isaac. Okay, our sister. Go ahead, Isaac.
It would be Jesus.
Jesus Christ. So here we have Abraham, we have Jesus Christ, we have the Father, we have the Son. Good. Now, what about Rebekah? Rebekah. Beautiful Rebekah. All right, my brother? Mi hermano. The Spanish side? 144,000. Very good. So we see something shaping up. And now Rebekah was able, she left her family, and she left her friends, and she left her earthly belongings there, Mesopotamia, and she traveled to where Isaac was. So of course, 144,000, the bride of Christ, being willing to forsake things here on the earth for their husband. Eliezer, he was the one sent to find this bride for Isaac. Now, Eliezer means God is helper. It's a little clue. God is helper. Eliezer. Sent, what would you say? Assist? Holy Spirit. Good. And now, the distant land that the Holy Spirit goes to find this wife would be The distant land. Eliezer had to go to a distant land. All right?
The earth.
The earth. Excellent. You're doing very well. What a class. All right, we got one more for you. Abraham, after the offering up of Isaac, of course he didn't kill Isaac, but there was that attempted offering of Isaac, and then Jehovah stopped him. Nevertheless, it was after that event that Isaac was as good as dead that Abraham began to look for a wife for Isaac. So when did the greater Abraham, Jehovah, begin to look for a wife in earnest for his son? The pattern. See, we're tightening those laces. All right? Our brother here.
In earnest, Pentecost 33 CE.
Yeah, after. So that would be after. You're not done.
Obviously after Jesus' sacrificial death.
Exactly. So after the death of the greater Isaac, that's when Jehovah began to look for a wife for his son. You see the pattern. And that's what we're talking about. So all of that, now let's ask that initial question. So all of that, of course, that pattern in Genesis 24 really is a foreshadow of what the future event that we are waiting for in Revelation. The marriage of the Lamb. So now, that's just one example, but just imagine going through all of those, and you're saying, well, I wish I could do that. To go through those, you can, and that's the point. That's the point. We're all taught by Jehovah. Remember, Gilead School, when they graduate, there's no textbook. They don't go with a book. Pioneers get a book, get a blue book. Elders get a green book. But the Gilead graduates, there's no book. There is none. Why? Because their book is God's Word and the publications. The publications of the faithful slave and the Bible. That's it. And then, vamonos, they can leave. You can leave now. And that's the point. So, what can we do that's very similar? We have the index. And we have the publication. So here's a suggestion for you. Why not study this very same way with your theocratic ministry school? We need to study those chapters anyway each week. For example, this coming week, we have Deuteronomy chapter 14, 15, 16, 17. And why not then, a little bit each day as time permits, you take the index, or you can go right to the computer and use that scripture index and begin to check what has the faithful and discreet slave class said on this verse. And then you go to what have they said on that verse. And now you get your reference Bible and you begin now to add notes from the publications. You always add notes only from the faithful and discreet slave class to your Bible. You know, if Brother Wallace is giving a talk or others, you know, you don't want to just everything a person says or me, anyone, but it's what do the publications say. And now you begin to transfer all that into your Bible. And then the next thing you know, you do it the next week and the next week. And within a time period, what have you done? You've transferred the notes from the slave class into your Bible, and what do you have? You have a Gilead Bible. You've went to school. Of course, no one did your laundry, no one cooked for you, and they didn't give you $113 a month for doing it. But nevertheless, in principle, as time allows, you can have that same structure with school. So we are all taught by Jehovah. It's not just prophetic parallels, though. That's not the end of school. God's Word is a book about people. And when we study certain portions, we're learning so much about Jehovah God and things that He approves, things that He disapproves, people's reactions to His commandments. And it's by studying the people and the reactions of Jehovah, that's when we learn things about Jehovah. For example, He includes these for our benefit. Now, He could very well tell us, don't be disloyal. And we would say, that's enough. That's enough. Jehovah told me, don't be disloyal, be loyal. But when He included the kiss of betrayal from Judas to Jesus, now He gives a face to what disloyalty really is. Now all of a sudden, disloyalty comes alive, and we feel it in the gut, and we say, oh, look what he did. We will never get that out of our mind. In fact, people still talk about any type of betrayal as the kiss of betrayal. And it's all because Jehovah said, I want that in the inspired Word. So He helps us with pictures and events of people that touch our hearts so that we can serve Him better. And that's what we want to do now. We're going to go through an entire chapter, as much as we have time for, and we're going to see how this works in our life, just like we do at school. All right? Are you ready, class? Remember, your extension 128. So let's go to Genesis chapter 49. Genesis chapter 49. Now this is a chapter that we would take on a particular day, and much of the information applies to the students as they go out into the field, but at the same time, it also applies to us, because again, we're all taught by Jehovah, and this is all from the publications. We need it. Self-building helps us to study with a real proper motive, and we learn things. So let's start with Genesis 49, verse 1. Later on, Jacob called his sons and said, gather yourselves together that they may tell you what will happen to you in the final part of the days. So here we have Jacob, and he has his 12 sons, and he wants to give them a blessing, or maybe not a blessing, maybe some reproof. So back in patriarchal times, remember, these men were authorized to do that with Jehovah's Holy Spirit and blessing. So he gathers them all together. Now, can you imagine if you're one of those boys? And now Jacob is on a couch, and he's old, ready to die, and you are one of those sons, and he says, come on, let's go, here it comes. And they knew what was happening. They all sit in front, and some are laying down, some of their eyes are bulging out, others are saying, oh, what's he going to do for me? Will I get a blessing or not? And their life is flashing before them. And now he begins. Verse 3. Reuben, yes, Father, he might have said that. You are my firstborn, my vigor in the beginning of my generative power, the excellence of dignity and the excellence of strength. Now you can imagine Reuben saying, oh, here it comes. I'm the firstborn. And that was the idea. He should have been the very, very best that his father had. He was the excellence of strength. He was the excellence of dignity. That means that he should have gotten the double blessing. The excellence of strength. The kingship should have come through Reuben. The kingship. At this point, Jacob was the one administering all of the financial affairs and the governmental affairs of the family. But the kingship should have gone through Reuben. Strength. The dignity. Well, that should have been the priesthood. You see the double blessing. The priesthood should have been able to come through Reuben. The excellence of dignity. At that point, Jacob was handling all of the religious duties, saying prayers to the family, offering up sacrifices. Oh, that should have gone now to Reuben. A double blessing. Did he get it? Sad, he didn't. Verse 4. With reckless license, like waters, do not you excel. Oh, Reuben's head must have bowed low. Oh, Father, how did you remember that? It was 50 years ago. But God's Spirit was working upon Jacob. You went up to your father's bed, you profaned my lounge, you went up to it, Reuben. Oh. Now this is referring 50 years ago when he violated Jacob's concubine, Bilhah. And it says, like reckless license. In other words, he was careless. He was reckless. He didn't think of the consequences. He didn't care about the honor of Bilhah's two sons. He didn't care about his father's dignity. No, like reckless license. I don't care. And then, like waters, turbulent waters, bursting, going through a dam, out of control. There's Reuben, out of control. Do not you excel. Stripped of all of his privileges. Reuben, your sin found you out some 50 years later. And it was sad. It was a sad day in Reuben's life because he forfeited all of these privileges. But here's the question. Was Reuben really that bad? Was he really that bad? Reuben had good qualities. Who was it that tried to save Joseph when his half-brothers threw him in the pit who wanted to kill him? It was Reuben who said, throw him in the pit and I'll come back and get him. And when Benjamin had to go to Egypt years later, because of Joseph feigning there with Potiphar and wanting Benjamin to come, who was it that said, my sons, I will give my sons if he doesn't return? It was Reuben. But you see, the fact is that Reuben was the firstborn. He should have been the very, very best son that his father had. Because of his carelessness, he had to forfeit those privileges. And now, there were no kings that came from Reuben's line. There were no judges. You never hear of a judge that came from Reuben's line. It were just the Reubenites. So what's the lesson that you feel that we might share with those that go to school? They get this wonderful training, and yet at the same time, if not careful, through careless license or not thinking about the consequences, they can forfeit their wonderful privileges of service. So what quality do you think is being highlighted at this point? Now this is back to you as the class. What quality do you think now that is important for all of us to cultivate so that we don't miss out and lose out on the wonderful privileges of serving Jehovah God that we have? What would you say? A quality. Okay, our sister, please.
Loyalty.
Loyalty, good.
Appreciation.
Appreciation. And how about if we picked one aspect of the fruitage of the Spirit? Loyalty, appreciation, good. And now let's narrow it down to an aspect of the fruitage of the Spirit. Which one do you think we would, okay, Brother Leslie?
Self-control.
Self-control, exactly. And that's why self-control at this point is talked about much with the students. But again, we're all taught by Jehovah. So it's not just for 56 people gathered in a classroom at Patterson. How important this is for you and me. We have been serving Jehovah maybe for decades, and maybe you know of some that just have lost out because of just not holding on to really what self-control really means. And that's what we want to talk about just for a moment. If we see in our own life any restless license, if we begin to take our relationship with Jehovah for granted and begin ignoring a bit the advice or counsel of the faithful and discreet slave, we begin to run a few yellow lights. And we haven't gotten an accident yet, but we're taking some chances. We're not yielding where we should, and we're going a bit forward. Now it's time to take stock of that relationship that we have. It's so precious. and put our foot on the brakes and begin to say, no, now is the time really to think about how self-control is working in my life. So that's one aspect of the fruit of the Spirit that is discussed. But let's go to verse 5. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Instruments of violence are their slaughter weapons. Well, they knew right away they weren't going to get a blessing. They might as well go home. So that's it for us. Well, but why? Well, because don't even come into their intimate group. Remember, they're the ones that took the lead in that plot against Joseph, and also what happened to Dinah. They slaughtered those men of Shechem. It was Simeon and Levi. And in verse 7, cursed be their anger because it is cruel, and their fury. Isn't that of interest? Cursed be their anger and their fury. The boys weren't cursed, but their poor qualities were. Notice that. Because at times we might get angry, we might lose our temper, but we're forgiven. Jehovah forgives us. Our mates might forgive us. The brothers will forgive us, but you can't unring a bell. The damage is done. And the qualities are cursed because it always leads to bad results. And that's what we see here. So, Simeon and Levi there had to be parceled out in Jacob. Parcel Simeon out in Jacob, that means that he won't get any tribal inheritance. He's going to live in little island cities within Jacob's territory. Judah's territory was big enough where it could absorb even Simeon. So Simeon was broken up into little island territories, enclave cities within Judah. And we know that Levi, they too were parceled out, scattered through Israel with the Levitical tribes. So they too didn't receive tribal inheritance. So again, what qualities here would you say would be important? Now let's stay with the aspects of the fruitage of the Spirit. We've already done self-control. So what other qualities would you say would be important at this point that would be highlighted for a Christian to really cultivate in his life? Okay, our young brother here, please.
Mildness.
Mildness, excellent, very nice, mildness. And
long-suffering.
Long-suffering, good. So mildness, long-suffering. Now, why are we highlighting the aspects of the fruitage of the Spirit here? Because that's the whole study at Gilead School. So we want to focus on that for a moment. We're all taught by Jehovah. So included in the course is an entire study on each of the aspects of those qualities. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, mildness. And again, we're all taught by Jehovah. So we're looking for some personal study. Wouldn't that be something for us to think about? Could we go, just take the Insight book and begin reading some of those paragraphs on those qualities and looking up the Scriptures? And you can't do it all in one study. What a nice family worship night that would be. Just take a few paragraphs, that's all you can do. Look up the Scriptures and really start to think about what these qualities mean to me. Make a study of them. And our life begins to change. We begin now to naturally apply what we learn, and we begin to manifest these qualities in our own life. And how important is that? Well, for the missionary, it's very important. Because they're going to be living in one home with people, sharing the same kitchen. Imagine 3 sisters in the same kitchen. That's something. Sharing washing facilities, bathrooms, and so forth. So they come as spiritual people to school, but it's not good enough for missionary work. Right? I mean, they have to tighten it, bring it up a notch because of their new circumstances. This one sister wrote, after being in her assignment for a short time period, I have learned that a wise missionary asks, how do other people react to my way of doing things? Oh, Not everyone thinks it's the best way. Oh, that's how you feel about it. I never thought of it that way. And then it finally dawns on you that other people actually find you irksome. Not at all the easy to live with kind of perfect Christian that is your own picture of yourself. And now she makes this profound comment. From that point on, you start becoming what you once thought you already were. Now isn't that something? Once we come to the realization that I'm not the all-loving, perfect Christian that everyone just wants to be around me, then we realize, no, I actually irritate you. At that point, that's the good point. So that's the good point. Don't get mad at me yet. That's the good point. Because from that point, now when the penny drops, now we can start to become the person that we envisioned we already were. What a wonderful wake-up. And that's so important for all of us. But that only comes when we start to analyze and study and begin to apply these wonderful aspects of the fruitage of the Spirit. Well, we have a lot of work to do. We're going to study the Theocratic Ministry School in a fresh way, starting next week if possible. Now we're going to have some new study with Insight book with the fruitage of the Spirit. Why? What a class. You're going to Gilead School. That's what it all comes down to. And that Jehovah will bless you for that. And the congregation will be happy too. All right, let's go further. Now we go to verse 8. 8. As for you, Judah, your brothers will laud you. Oh, now we have a good one. Yes, finally, Judah. His brothers will laud him. That means that they will recognize him as superior. They will praise him. Your hand will be on the back of the neck of your enemies. You're going to gain victories in war. The sons of your father will prostrate themselves to you. You see, they will recognize him as a superior ruler. And it says, a lion cub Judah is. From the prey, my son, you will go up. You're going to go up with spoils from war. And verse 10, here it is. The scepter will not turn aside from Judah, and the commander's staff from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. The obedience of the nations belongs to him. So there it is, the kingly scepter, the kingly line that will lead to Christ Jesus the Messiah is going to come through Judah. Now, you can imagine how Judah felt. Yeah? See that, my brother? I am the man. There it is. He just maybe took his little garment. Commander, can you say that again, Father? One more time, so everybody hears. Commander's staff. Me. All right, but there was another aspect of this prophecy that is very important for us to appreciate. Go back to verse 9. And maybe his father said, no, Judah, what did I say? A lion cub Judah is. Oh. So what does that mean? Well, that means that Judah is going to not walk out and get responsibility immediately as if he's a full-grown king of the beasts and begin to roar and say, I am he. Oh no, you're a baby. You're a little baby cub. That's what he meant. You're a little lion. When was Judah a lion cub? It's time for you again. All right, I'm going to help. Who was the first king of Israel? Name that man. First king of Israel. All right? Our sister right here with the green. You look like you have it. Saul. Now, wait. Okay, wait a minute. Knowledge brings responsibility. Now, can you remember what tribe Saul was from? All right?
Benjamin?
Benjamin. Excellent. All right, no, wait, no. Relax. At ease, okay. Benjamin. Now, when Benjamin had the kingship, what was Judah at this point? Cub. He was a baby. He had to grow. He had to mature. He had to show loyalty. He had to show his obedience to Jehovah's arrangement. He had to show, I'm going to support Benjamin. Even though the prophecy said it's going to come through Judah, what test do you think would have been upon the Judeans at this point? When Saul was picked, Benjamin, the first king, what do you think might have gone through some of those Judeans' minds? All right, please.
They must have wondered why it wasn't coming through them, because they knew what the prophecy was.
That's right.
They felt it was unfair.
Exactly. What was that?
They felt that it was unfair.
Exactly. So what test came upon them, would you say? What test came upon the Judeans?
Well,
all right, we'll let someone else answer. But you have the good word, unfair. We'll give you a point for that. Yes, please.
They had to be humble.
Humble. Good. And please, right there. Our brother.
Submissive.
Submissive. Exactly. Support. Loyal. What are they going to do? Now, this was a situation Jehovah threw out there. What are you going to do about it, Judeans? And now David comes along, and he kills Goliath. He's a Judean. And now that's pretty obvious that, whoa, but here's a Judean that's really working hard. And yet, what test would have come upon David? Knowing that he was even anointed as a future king by Samuel as a young man, and now he shows he has God's fear, but yet, what test would have come upon him at this point? Yes, please.
Loyalty to Jehovah.
And exactly, and you patience. Because he still would have had to have supported Saul, support Benjamin, work in harmony with Benjamin. And that's really the point. And now, quickly, for the Gilead students, you've already gotten that one. They come, they graduate, they have all this wonderful knowledge, all these prophetic parallels, and they go to their assignment, and they can't even speak the language. And they're competing with the little 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds for Jehovah and Jesus Christ, 1914. But I want to express myself in some prophetic parallels. Well, if they walk into that congregation like a roaring king of the beast, and, here I am. No, a lion cub. They're little babies. And you can, check with these Gilead graduates that are here. We have a couple of couples. And they will say how they had to be a little cub. Humility. Support the existing arrangement and work with the brothers. Knowledge, you see, cannot drive them into thinking they were superior to others, even though they got the training. Now, what about us? Is it not really humility within the congregation that keeps us together? Things aren't always perfect within a congregation. There's no perfect congregation. And things might not go as we had expected, maybe even from responsible brothers. Maybe they say things, or we're a little hurt over something that is said or done. And we have to be careful that we don't run ahead of the organization or run ahead of the elders or simply say, well, I'm going to move congregations because things aren't being done my way. Do you know that in the Gulf War, 35% of the American troops were killed or wounded by their own troops? And that's called friendly fire. Friendly fire. That's when you're killed or wounded by your own troops. So, if not careful, if that lion cub attitude and humility does not hold sway over us, we can become guilty of friendly fire. We're all together, and yet we might wound our own brothers by things we might say or things we might do, and we're hurting ourselves if we do that. We talk about, if we say something, well, this elder's that way, or that elder's this way. I know we don't do that. I'm not saying that. It's not a service talk, you have to do this and that. No. We're just talking about principles and how we can learn, that's all. Because if we start firing at our own troops and bruising and wounding them, we forget who the real enemy is. And the real enemy is Satan and the wicked world. That's who we need to direct our blows against, not our own brothers. So, if we maintain that Judah-like lion cub attitude, we're going to be very, very helpful within the organization. Humility simply allows us to work together. Okay, let's keep moving. All right, we've done Judah. I think now we have time for Issachar. Let's go to Issachar, 14. Issachar is a strong-boned ass, lying down between the two saddlebags. Well, it's pretty clear what Issachar will be. He's strong. He's hard-working. He doesn't shirk his load. He gets responsibility. He does it. Simple. That's Issachar. No fooling around. What do you want me to do? I'm there. 15. Then he will see that his resting place is good, that his land is pleasant, content. When the promised land was divided up, they all stood there, and Jehovah told them where they would live. Remember, on the western side of the Jordan River. And with Moses and Joshua. Now Jehovah says, you're going to live there. Issachar, you're going to live there. Judah, you're going to live there. And it's when Issachar got his territory assignment, what did he say? I love it. My fine assignment. My land is good. Don't complain. He didn't say, no, I like fishing. I want to be near the Mediterranean. Or, no, fine. Wherever you put me, Jehovah, as long as I can worship. He will bend down his shoulder to bear the burdens. He's willing to undertake responsibility. And even he's going to subject himself to slavish forced labor. Can you imagine? Issachar, I'm subjecting myself to slavish forced labor. In other words, he's looking, what can I do for my brothers? Well, I know I did it last time, and I know I did it last time, and I know I did it last time. I don't care. Because I see my brother's benefit and the organization benefit, so I'm subjecting myself to slavish forced labor. I'll do the extras. Now, can you imagine that tribe? And when you study them out, every time there was a battle, whether it was Barak and Deborah running down Mount Tabor, it doesn't matter. Issachar was there. Issachar was there. They were dependable. Now, of course, you can appreciate that for the Gilead students. When they get their missionary assignment, they have no choice in the matter. They stand there in front of a governing body member, in front of the entire Bethel family, and they're given their assignment. Timbuktu, Ecuador, Ghana, and there they go. And what do they say? My land is fine. That's my assignment. That's where Jehovah wants me to go. That's what I'm going to do. No, there's contentment there. And that's for them. But now, more importantly, we are all taught by Jehovah. So what do you think would be important for us? Well, just as that missionary now has no choice in the matter, this is the country that they're sent to, that's the language they learn, this is the missionary home they live in, this is the washing machine they're going to have that doesn't work, this is the, that's the way it is. This is where the water spigot is and no water comes out of. It's an idol. It does not speak, it does not hear, but it's always there. It's a constant feature. Every missionary home has a spigot without water, because that's part of life. Right? And frankly, isn't it the same with us? Can't we also have that same Issachar spirit? And the key is simply being content with what Jehovah gives us in life. All of us would perhaps choose different circumstances for ourselves. but that's not reality, is it? Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 9 says, "Better is the seeing by the eyes than the walking about of the soul." Ecclesiastes 6, 9. "Better is the seeing by the eyes than the walking about of the soul." In other words, seeing by the eyes is just, let's face reality. This is who I am. This is my wife. This is my husband. These are my children. This is my congregation. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. This is my health. That's reality. Walking about in the soul is, I wish it were different. Soulful desires that are simply not realistic. Well, I wish I could move to Timbuktu and find... Well, you can't, because your circumstances don't allow. Or, you see, that's much better just to live with who we are and what we can do in Jehovah's service. Then we're happy. We want to be very careful as we serve Jehovah that we don't get into the spin of, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I have children. I'll be happy when the children grow up. I'll be happy when they get out of the house. I'll be happy when... You see, and around it goes. It's the I'll be happy when syndrome. That's not the way we want to live our lives. It's, what is my life? How is Jehovah blessing me? What are my circumstances? I wouldn't choose these circumstances. Maybe not. But they are what they are. Aha. Now the key to unlock the door to happiness and contentment. I wouldn't choose these circumstances, but here they are. But I will use my circumstances to show the devil he's a liar, and to prove to Jehovah the depth of my devotion, and that I'm not serving him simply when I land on my feet, and I'm not serving simply when things go right in my life. No, I'm going to show the devil that convenience is not a factor in my dedication to Jehovah. I'm not dedicated to circumstances. I'm dedicated to Jehovah God. And that's what we're talking about. Life is not a matter of holding good cards, but learning how to play a poor hand well. And that's what we learn. And that's what Paul learned in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 7. Do you remember what Paul said? 3 times, what did he say to Jehovah? Jehovah, I have a thorn in the flesh. Could have been poor eyesight. Brothers laughed at him when he gave talks. Maybe loose guy, he wasn't very handsome. Or it could have been, as our publication states, superfine apostles. Those that kept jabbing him. Whatever, 3 times, Jehovah, take the thorn out, take the thorn out, take the thorn out. Jehovah says, no, no, no. Look, Paul, you are an apostle. You're a member of the governing body. You have friendship with me. You have my Holy Spirit. You're writing 14 letters. You are an anointed Christian. You have supernatural visions. You're a missionary. And now you want the thorn out too? What else do you want? No, but that's the mental attitude that Paul had to adopt. Jehovah helped him. Then all of a sudden, when Jehovah helped Paul reason on that, count your blessings, what happened then? He said, oh, now he takes pleasure in weaknesses. Bring him on. Because he got the proper viewpoint. He adopted the proper mental attitude, which said something like, these weaknesses are great. Because now it's an opportunity for me to show who I really am and to prove the devil he's a liar. And he counted his blessings and he lived with the thorn. So, simply put, this idea of Issachar being this strong-boned ass and just being content and working with his circumstances, we hope that it has valuable lessons even for you and me. We have time for one more. All right? And let's take Joseph. We have to take Joseph. Please. 22. Offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree. Well, the fruit-bearing tree is Jacob, because he bore a lot of fruit. Joseph is the offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree by the fountain. Oh, it's well-watered. Jacob was well-watered. He had a lot of sun. And it propels its branches up over a wall. So you see, Joseph would propel himself over a wall in that he would become prominent over his half-brothers. 23. But the archers, his half-brothers, kept harassing him. They shot at him, and they kept harboring animosity. Oh, his half-brothers hated him. They tried to kill him. They were jealous. They were envious. They were bitter. Let's kill him. 24. And yet his bow, Joseph's bow, where his arrows would be, kept dwelling in a permanent place, and the strength of his hands was supple. From the hands of the powerful one, Jacob, there is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Now, what a lesson. There are so many lessons with Joseph, but why does Jehovah draw attention to the one where it says his bow was dwelling in a permanent place? Well, the fact of the matter is, his half-brothers kept firing arrows at him that wanted to hurt him. And it was animosity and envy and bitterness and so forth. And Joseph never lost ground. He stood his ground, and he continued to fire back arrows of love, arrows of compassion, forgiveness. Those half-brothers of Joseph could not cripple his loving kindness toward them. His bow was dwelling in a permanent place. He didn't go wild. When he saw them, when they came to Egypt and he had an opportunity for revenge, he didn't go wild. His bow wasn't all over the place. No, it still was permanent there, shooting back arrows of kindness and forgiveness and compassion. And that's what Jehovah is teaching us. So just as a suggestion, when you do your study on the aspects of the fruit of the Spirit, and you get to love, really think about what agape love means. Agape love, to love the unlovable, to love those whom you might not like. It's a conquest of the will, a conquest of the mind. Agape love. It's based on unselfishness. It has concern for others regardless of their merit and the benefits that come to us as the giver. That's now what we're looking for in all of us. Unselfish concern for others, regardless of their merit, and the benefits that come to us as the giver. That's what we're learning from Joseph. There's so many things that we can talk about. So let's now have an oral review. All right? Not a written one, don't worry, but an oral review. I think that's fair. So, let's start. Reuben, what's the lesson that you took away? Reuben. Okay. All right, our sister, please.
Exercise self-control.
Self-control, very good. All right. We don't want any fly in the ointment. You know what that is. We work so long and hard to develop a good reputation, and then something, one red light could cause an accident. We want to be mindful of that. How about Simeon and Levi? What's your takeaway point? All right, Brother Jason.
Mildness and long-suffering.
Yes, very nice. Good. And what was cursed there? The boys weren't cursed, they were forgiven. But the qualities. That's what we want to be careful of. Good. Who is next? Judah. Judah. All right. Please, Brother Ken.
Judah would need humility.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. And what did that idea of a lion cub, what would require on his part, along with humility? Please. Yes. Please. No. Go ahead.
Patience.
Patience. You going to say patience? Okay. Keith, were you going to say something? Patience. Okay. That's good. All right. One more. Yes, please. Sister.
Mission, and that would include having Jehovah's mind on all matters.
That's correct. And even when we see, why don't we, in our own congregation, just to make sure that we have that same view of supporting each other, just as you're doing, without friendly fire. We don't want to injure any of our own troops. And who was next? Let me see. We have Issachar. Please, to the back there, we have our sister right there.
To find joy and contentment in what Jehovah has given us in life and use our circumstances to serve Him well, the best of our ability.
Exactly, good. And finally, Joseph. What's your takeaway point with Joseph? Okay, our brother, please.
Love.
Love, exactly. What type? Eros, Philia, Storge, Agape. Very nice. Good. Now, I want to share one more point with you. And this is just from me to you. In my brief encounter with this Bernardo Heights congregation, I have something personal I want to say. And that is now another son of Jacob that you as a congregation imitate. Because every Gilead class has their own spirit. There's a spirit in the class, and we can identify that. And you have a spirit. 128 extension class of Gilead has a spirit that we have identified. And it's in Judges chapter 5. Judges chapter 5 is the victory song of Deborah and Barak after they defeated the troops of Jabin and Sisera running down Mount Tabor in the Kishon Valley. Beautiful song. And it begins to identify all of the tribes. Some of them got commendation and honorable mention. Others were censured because of their laziness and their lack of zeal in God's worship. And you are like Zebulun. Verse 18. Zebulun was a people that scorned their souls to the point of death. That's you. Why do I say that? Because this one lyric in this song speaks volumes about Zebulun and about their readiness and their willingness to offer themselves in behalf of Jehovah's interest. And that's what your reputation is. It doesn't matter what other congregations do. It doesn't matter what spirit they might have. You are unique. Now, you think about the emotional stress that you've been under during the week. You think about all the work that you did to prepare for last night, the parents of our dear sister Jenny coming in. You think about all that you had to get ready for. And then last night, some 300 and over 20 people pouring into this Kingdom Hall on a Friday night. Again this morning, out in service. The Kingdom Hall is full even today with you because of your wanting to even do more in Jehovah's service and learn more. It simply is a Zebulunite spirit, scorning your souls, courage, faith, putting Jehovah's interests first. And I feel that's your legacy. You are a Zebulunite congregation. And that you are to be commended for that, because that is your dominant spirit. So never lose it. Never lose it. And I can go on and on. I know you just had international guests from the summer, and you had conventions, and you had guests pouring in, and you have other Bethel speakers coming through, and another one maybe in a few months, and then it's on and on for you folks. But you just have this tremendous spirit to rise to the occasion. You scorn your souls, and then that is to be appreciated. And may Jehovah bless the way you continue to serve Him. Take Genesis 49 to heart. Continue to be taught by Jehovah, every single one of us, and continue to be a good Zebulun. Thank you very much. And again, we look forward to being together tomorrow. We're going to be here 9:30 in the morning. We'll have a public talk, and we'll continue our wonderful weekend together as we serve Jesus. We can conclude with prayer, and we're going to sing song 212. We thank you.